everybody. Welcome to our season 2 wrap up for Of Kith and Pen. Woo, 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 woo. We are all back together to chat about the season in its entirety and, just to hang out with each other again, because it's been like a month and a half since you guys recorded the finale episode. How y'all feeling? How y'all doing?
I miss you guys.
I miss these faces
so much.
My life is less fun now.
So bad, Kenzie. I think the general consensus is sad. Sad gaze. Sad gaze.
Quality of life has just gone down.
And we couldn't mutiny, unfortunately. And just continue recording regardless.
We did try.
Well, we're all, except for me, because I'm a party pooper, are dressed in the fashion of our roughly our characters.
I went for pretty cosplayer, I would say. I'm wearing like a cloak, kind of.
Ooh.
Here we go. Actually, what was the decision to be a giraffe?
Oh, well, the inspiration behind being a giraffe is I already owned this one.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. Incredible.
It was really well thought out.
Yeah. Live.
Didn't you ask to be a subway rat?
Yeah.
I did.
Season 4. It's just gonna be...
if we ever bring this back, I am going to be a subway rat, and it's just going to be my whole personality for whatever, like, one-off or what have you.
No, it's going to be a whole season of just a subway rat.
And it's just me
Just
running around New York in a onesie, like, let's go!
You can just do that now.
I mean, you could just do that now. Also, there is that person who already does that.
How do you know it's not me?
Because
How do you
I
know
think
that's not
Harper
I
was
feel
asked.
they're a tall bitch. They're a
Good
tall
point.
bitch, and I
Good
know
point.
you're...
I'm
You're the
5'6",
second
I'm not short.
tallest.
Yeah.
You're the
I'm
second
like,
tallest.
everyone
tall are
else
you?
is tiny.
I'm sorry, can everyone look at Janine sipping that with the otter paws?
I didn't realize it had paws to it,
important.
too. It's great.
Haku raises a paw.
You can do it now! Okay, well, big question to start out here. What were everyone's overall impressions of the season as a whole once you completed it?
That's a big question.
It is. We're gonna start out big. We're gonna start out big.
So I think the overall impression when it was done, it was like, I can't believe it reached kind of such a big scale of epicness and like in some cases destiny for Haku, and the kind of like world spanning consequences of everything we did when we were just like a few little kids, a few little guys. I was like, wow, these little messes did a lot of stuff, and it was kind of like I didn't expect it to go that big.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I've been pretty open about this. Like, I didn't go in with all too many expectations. Like, 'cause I don't know, I just kind of feel like I didn't want to have too much planned out, and I wanted to craft the story together. So, where we ended up, I think was exactly where it was supposed to end up, and way better than if I had like planned out better, if I feel like if I came in with like heavier reins and a more linear story kind of already like put together, I don't think it would have been nearly as good, in my opinion.
I also think, like, depending on the game you're playing, sometimes it lends easier to kind of more going with the flow and building the story together. And Wanderhome, I think, is kind of a perfect venue for that.
I'm with you, Octa, where I didn't expect the story to get so, like, grand. When I went into this, I very much thought we were just gonna be silly little guys trolloping through this big, big world, having a blast.
I mean,
Which
you
is
did.
true. That is, like, true. But it all culminated into something that was much bigger than ourselves. And we went we were now little guys who had to deal with this big thing that we weren't necessarily equipped to deal with, but we had to anyway, for the sake of Kithdom as a whole. We all went through a lot.
That is a truer statement has never been said.
I don't know if you can see me like tearing up over here. Like I've just got very sparkly eyes. Like my overall impression is like I think we captured like Wander Home in a really fun way that just like I feel like you are all like really close friends of mine now. And like the journey of playing these characters helps that a lot of just like how much we supported each other and cared about each other, and like the adventure was this massive big thing, but I think like being able to show up for each other when the big scary things were happening just did a lot for my heart. I'm like crying. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now because I'm
No,
crying.
Well, as you
Aw.
recover, we'll have Janine speak.
Yeah, this was actually really fun and wholesome, and it was nice to like do something that like still pulled the heartstrings, but like didn't hurt me emotionally. Well, it did hurt me emotionally, but like when you play like other TTRPGs, I feel like a lot of it is like bloods, gore, all of that fun jazz, and like Wander Home. I came in knowing that I'd be like crying in happiness, but also came crying with like the kith along the way, and like also just love how we were able to continue the themes that we started with, like the letters, and like a lot of us started with like something in episode 1 that like stressed our characters out, and then at the end those were resolved, which was really cool. Honestly, when Haku became the Star Keeper, I was not expecting that. I was just sitting here being like, he's a little guy and he's gonna probably find the guy that he's looking for, and that's what I'm here for. And like seeing like Nayu be able to like have a partner, or like have a partner in life again, and just like have that something was broken and come back again. This is a weird one. Alma believing in humans. I know that's a weird thing to say, but that like that's a really interesting, because we never talked about humans in the like post-apocalyptic world, and like little Fletcher like having a little two paws has 2 paws, which is really interesting after watching that, like listening and like experiencing episode 1 and just the breakup. So I think it was really fun seeing that like full circle-ness and doing the journey with all of you.
Well, I do think way back in the beginning, Harper did warn everybody that she had never played Wander Home where people didn't cry. So
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
The warning was there.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
I know that this was a question that I had asked you in like one of the first after shows we did, but since this wrap up is going to be for the public, I would like to ask it again. And I would like you guys to talk about why you picked or mashed together the playbooks that you did. Which, you know, the answer by now maybe have shifted after playing a whole season of it.
I wanted to be spooky, and then Fletcher existed, and it just wasn't spooky anymore. But I do like I like playing a helpful character who isn't necessarily like strong. Like in D&D, I play a monk a lot because I like being the fast person, which is sometimes more helpful in terms of like aiding and things like that. So like as Fletcher, I think like being able to be someone who's like, oh, I have a potion for that. Just seemed like a very helpful playbook to have in our little team. But the original thought was I'm gonna be spooky, and then it just didn't happen.
And then you open your mouth and Fletcher's voice came out and you were like, oh, okay, so we're not spooky. Damn,
Exactly.
I'm
alright.
doing sticky instead of spooky.
Sticky? Is that what you meant? Sticky?
Haku is a little bit of a loaded question, because I ended up starting with 2, mixing 2, and then ending up adding another playbook to my character at the end. But the last one helped. I'll explain after. But I really wanted this. There is the Stargazer and the Seeker that both had like elements that I really liked, and I thought it'd be fun to combine like finding myths in the stars. So I combined those two books together. And then Haku started collecting gods like Pokemon and the oh my gosh, what is it? Not the Mentor. I forgot which book I stole from.
The Caretaker?
The Caretaker, which I played in our auditions. I really liked the element of having little gods as shrines all over the place on you, and I thought it worked really well with how Haku just kept seeing stars and like wanting to like made star charts, put so much intention in the star charts, and like gods popping out of the pages, which worked really well. And I was like, I gotta do it. That's so cute. Imagine the little guy with little stars all over. So that's what ended up happening at the end, and yeah, I like it.
I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I kind of went into this game with the idea that, well, number one, the Gravedigger is like a very top core thing to do. It's like very typical. It's a very classic choice. Of course, it's the one that's about death and ghosts. That's like classic. But I've also always really enjoyed that, different cultures in our world have different, practices and beliefs around death and how people deal with death. And in a world like Wanderhome, where death still happens, I was very curious as to how the Kith would feel about death and how that would impact their kind of day-to-day and what someone's life would be like to have to interact with that sort of thing regularly. And the kind of incorporation of the afterlife and spirits, I think, really lended itself well to where the story ended up going. And kind of Alma's role in the story and being able to connect with, the spirit of this human that was, actually being trapped and manipulated by the big bad evil guy. Toad, I should say. Big bad evil Toad. So going into it, I didn't really have any plans beyond that. I was just like, oh, this is cool. This is me. Wow.
It's a valid way
great.
to pick a playbook.
It wasn't one of the original playbooks. It was one that I think was in one of the supplementals. Which, just goes to show if if there's not something that you necessarily want in the TTRPG, you can always find a supplemental that might, spice things up for you a little bit in any game.
So I also ended up mixing and matching between a few playbooks, some of them again supplementals. And the idea behind what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something that is very based and grounded around creating and reflecting stories and kind of like compiling little stories based on what happens around me. Almost thinking of Neo as someone that keeps people together and someone that wants to make connections more specific to kind of like show people in distant places that they can be very similar. And I was like, I'm gonna make little pieces that will do that. I want to move things from one place into the other place, and that kind of ended up materializing a lot with the last piece that Neo did. So I'm pretty excited about how that ended. Yeah, the basics of the playbook is I wanted something that was very about connections between kids.
Harper, was there, I know you didn't get a playbook, but was there a specific Kith that you got to play throughout the season that you resonated with a lot, or did it kind of shift as the story went along?
I feel like Calyx was probably one. Like, they weren't, like, really in my plans for, like, longer term, but it just seemed like they really got along with the group, and eventually I saw a lot of, like, my own journey through Calyx and kind of how they progressed and yeah, so I just really vibed with Calyx, honestly, and almost got a rabbit instead.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but I don't know why I went with the Mothman. Maybe similar to Mishy, I just like being a little creepy.
Meanwhile, I'm here with my adorable flying squirrel onesie.
I'm spooked. I'm so spooked. Look at those little eyes.
Those little beady eyes.
Well, I guess next question here is also for everybody, and I know for you too, Harper, I know you said that, you didn't necessarily have a linear, like, step-by-step plan or story, but I was wondering if there was anything that happened that was, like, very surprising for where you thought the story was going. And I know we already talked about, like, it was bigger than everybody expected it to be, but was there, like, a specific moment that just kind of stood out as, like, a shocker?
So the original plan of the preservation and Professor Peppers was not supposed to be that they were evil. But it was just like, y'all latched onto that, like, right from the beginning, like, Professor Peppers is evil. And I was like, okay, I guess Professor Peppers is evil. And it worked out, but it was not my intention to have Professor Peppers to be evil. But sometimes things just happen that make sense, and we love it.
I mean, if that hadn't have happened, we would have never gotten, like, one of my favorite lines, which was from Alma, which I have it right here.
Yeah.
Professor, I really wish I could say I learned from the best, but clearly I'm self-taught. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite lines from the whole
I
It
season.
can't
was
believe
so
I-
good.
I can't believe
Yeah.
that came out of my brain. I was literally thinking about that, sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alma
that was a
possessed
moment.
you.
That was wild. That was very, very wild.
That was like a top 10 improv moment of the, spilling the water on the parchment and just getting called a bitch by my professor. That was the most shocking moment for me.
And then also, I really liked the character progression, like, and how characters developed. And, like, when we met every character, like, I didn't think Tati was going to be playing a character that would be kind of like the rock of the whole group and kind of keep everybody together. Yeah. Yeah, I was not expecting Alma to be that. I wasn't expecting Neo to be, like, the sort of, like, unending fountain of wisdom. Like,
Yeah.
like, all these, like, great things came out of these characters, like, just the wholesomeness of Haku and his willingness to kind of, like, just put himself out there in places that wouldn't normally put himself. And I also, I like with I'm forgetting names now. Fletcher, kind of being also this, like, problem solver by the end of it too, like, and source for, like, what are we gonna do? Like, it
And the
was,
hot boy of the season.
And the hot boy of the season.
and the hot boy
real.
of the season.
Who knew the sticky, stinky crybaby would be the heartthrob?
Uh-huh.
I mean,
I
any
saw that
character
coming.
played by you.
Yeah,
True.
probably. Yes.
Facts.
That's the common denominator.
This is true. The other, like, small games we've played, for some reason, I'm stuck with the romance. I don't know why this keeps happening to me.
Well, what about the rest of you guys? Anything that sticks out as, like, a surprise that you weren't expecting?
I was so deeply shocked and, like, heartbroken when we finally met Foster. And when we realized that he wasn't under some memory spell, I think, I think I had trouble sleeping that night. I was so disturbed and distraught by it. I was like, that's so painful, so heartbreaking. I thought we would find this beloved friend along our journey, and instead, this friend is, like, involved in everything that we're against. And it was so terrifying and sad. And I think, like, unveiling why it all happened, it was just one of the bigger things that, like, not came out of nowhere for me, but like I wasn't expecting it at all. And when like everything was falling into place, I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. This hurts so much.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that one because that was also the first like place we didn't fix. And I think that's where it hit it for me, because we just ran. And I was like, Wanderhome, we're supposed to fix things. Our journey was to fix things, and we didn't, and we ran. We did as best as we could, but it could be broken by the time we come back. So that was a little scary. Also, I think it was also when we started doing back-to-back sessions, and we saw each other, like, every day for a solid, like, we saw each other every other day for a solid, like, weekend, and I think I was also losing it at that point, and I was like, oh my god, this is scary. I love seeing all of you, but we're at the scary part of the game.
We went from, oh, Foster threw me off a machine, to, oh, Foster actually hates me, to, oh, we have to leave this place. Oh, they're pursuing us. Everyone is evil, to, oh, now we have to wrap and tie up Fletcher's ex, to, oh, there's now a giant spirit cave on in a beam of steel, and there's like a lot of lethal people in the city that we're gonna go to, oh, now we're stuck. Ship is broken, and Alma's having a breakdown.
That was terrifying.
Please catch a break.
That was an oh
terrifying.
shit for me as well. Like when
You
Alma
did
kind of
it!
broke.
You did it! What do you mean it was an oh shit for you? You did that! Hold on. I will say the coin, like say like worst the worst sinking message. That was probably the biggest one for me. And then I was just like, fuck. I was like, I'm off camera the whole time when y'all are recording, obviously, and I was just like sitting in my chair, just like this, like, what's going on?
I just remember doing this really like kind of unhinged giggle,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone lost it. Everyone
Fucking
started
terrifying.
freaking out, and I was like, "Was it that bad? Like,
No,
what
it was
did I do
good.
I was
was
on
good.
board. I
Yes.
understood
You were.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, have I gone too far? Are people going to cry? Is
I
that
mean,
not
that's
the
what
goal?
we're trying
No,
to
it
do,
was
right?
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was very. How much of that breakdown was Alma, and how much of that breakdown was me? We'll never know. Um, but it was very fun to put the group in a precarious position where they had to kind of be in charge. I thought that was great.
I agree.
Change the dynamic a bit.
We needed to grow up a little bit without our mom friend.
And was that right after or right before Fletcher had their moment of spouting all? I think that was right after, when Fletcher stood up to the guard and was like,
Yeah.
so Fletcher had like was on that roll already almost.
Oh yeah, there was like that moment in time where Fletcher started gaining sentience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So he's like, oh, I'm a person.
That was fun.
Yeah, I think like the moment Fletcher gained sentience was, yeah, when we were trying to distract the guard entering the machine folks, like the multi-level marketing scheme guys, the people Foster were with. I don't remember their name.
Rara.
Terrera.
Minecraft. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what I said to that guard. I think the spirit of Fletcher took over my body in that moment. And I don't even know how long that little speech was.
That was crazy.
That was
It's like,
good.
I think,
Actually,
if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was like a minute and a half.
That's crazy.
I love how, like, in character and the actual players, everyone sort of, like, took a step back and was just watching Fletcher, like, oh, shit. It was a great moment. All right, pop off, little guy. Okay.
Speaking of Alma kind of stepping back in that moment from her leadership role, Oakdad sent me a question for you, Tot. That specifically says that Alma's been in their big cis era for a while. So what do you feel like is her next steps?
Oh boy. Well, now she's traveling, with friends, and that's good. And she's not, holding herself responsible for the well-being of her family. Um Now she's like kind of just doing more stuff for herself rather than for other people. I think she's like letting go of a certain amount of control by, still traveling with her friends. Like at first she was traveling with them out of sort of necessity. Like she loves her friends, but her ship is her baby. And like as soon as she let other people onto her ship, Chandler started fucking with shit. Um so I think she went through this whole arc of being very controlling over the situation to recognizing that she needs to release a little bit of control or else she's going to lose her mind.
Again.
She's really passionate about what she does. She, likes the ghosts and she thinks it's important what she's doing and she wouldn't necessarily change her job, but I think in her like personal life she's trying to be a little bit less herself.
We like everything about Alma. Don't be less yourself. Just
I love Alma.
She just needs to relax a little bit, and I think she'll be able to do that now. I think she's in her like filler arc, where she gets to go to the beach and she gets to go to the sauna like spa thing, and she gets to just relax with her friends, and she doesn't need to worry about saving the world.
She can discover like fantasy weed or something. That'd be good for her.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. She can pick up a hobby.
Fletcher has an herb for that.
Fletcher has a potion for that, for sure.
If you're continuing like working in the job that you enjoy, how has the confirmed existence of human ghosts affected your profession?
That's a very, very good question. I think eventually, in the effort of the pursuit of knowledge, I think Alma would try to see if she can connect with more human spirits to just kind of learn more. I feel like the big thing that we encountered throughout the season was that nobody knew anything about the humans, and everything that we did know about them kind of just came from like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's like this. And like the memories and texts that people can or can't read, like it was very inaccessible. So I think Alma would want to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth, for lack of a better word, and help kind of figure out what their history actually looks like from the perspective of human ghosts. And maybe help them out a little bit, because I feel like the human ghosts kind of were not in a great spot. I feel like they're not in as nice of a place as the Kith ghosts are, because they maybe didn't necessarily receive as much like care, because the end of the world happened and there was a big war and a lot of people died. And a lot of people died in battle, and they didn't necessarily get like proper burials or ceremonies. So I think she would, try to honor their spirits.
It's funny that Alma might be the human expert.
Yeah, no.
Right? That is so funny.
Come full circle.
Opening it back up to everybody, was there anything that popped up during the story that you felt you would have liked to have spent some more time on, or a place you wanted to spend more time in?
I'm still very, very, very curious about when we're going to Portsmore for the first time. We flew through or on top above. We flew above these positions. These roiling mass darkness and fallen robots, and that freaked me out a lot. And I guess that's still there.
That's a valid point.
It's a question for someone in here.
Does Harper have an answer?
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly like kind of do wish in some ways like the season would have been a little less like world savvy and more just like explory. But that's just it, and that's not how it went. But yeah, I do wish we could have spent some time in the spaces in between. I wish we could have spent some time in Middledwell exploring the Mirage. Like there's lots of things, like we could have honestly spent like our entire season in one of the locations and that would have been enough. So yeah, there's just still a lot of story out there to tell, world to explore. And yeah, maybe we'll get to do that one day.
I would pay real money if I could like transfer my life to our little guys' lives in Wanderhome and just explore this world that we built together. Because we spent so much time just even building the lastings, and we were there for like 2 episodes. And I don't know, I like you know how some people like when they get addicted to The Sims, they just kind of live in that world for a few days. Like I would just love to do that in our Wanderhome world. Because all of it was so detailed, and I wanted to spend more time everywhere.
I will say that despite the lack of like having the time to really just sit in the spaces, the fact that you guys had that history built and that place built and like the common knowledge and understanding of like where you came from really helps solidify this world as like a real place and you as people actually traveling through it. So despite not being able to like fully spend a lot of time in these places, I think that at the end of the day it really helped lend weight to the season and the story.
The way you just described that, Mishi, it makes me think I would want to play like a Stardew Valley style game, but like even set just in the lastings, like go around and like the little shops and have like your little like and like Kith avatar that you could like get a cape for and things. And
Is it just Animal Crossing? Is the game we're thinking?
Animal
Crossing?
Oh no.
Oh my god, it's been Animal
Oh,
Crossing
man.
the whole time.
But Animal Crossing's on an island and not a floating island, so that doesn't count.
Semantics.
Exactly.
That's still
Completely
so
different.
close.
Semantics.
So we need to mod Animal Crossing into the lastings.
That would be
What?
excellent.
I was gonna say, do we know any game devs who want to create a game called The Lastings?
Just gonna put that out in the universe. Be like, hey, anybody?
devs.
That made me so happy. Oh, also, I wish I read more fortunes. Because I made it all up. Reading them was really stressful for me because I was like, oh man, I don't, something's gonna happen. Like, I think Chandler literally pulled the card that read death, or like the tea leaves read death, and I was like, oops.
Sorry.
And then Chandler interpreted that as the death of my career.
Yeah. Good save, good save.
I wish we saw more stars, and I wish we all saw us in our nocturnal forms, because we all played nocturnal characters.
It was super funny getting to the moment where you guys realized every single one of your animals was nocturnal, but for like the first few episodes you thought only Fletcher was.
Yeah.
He just can't adjust as quickly as the others. I think Nayu mentioned that, or whoever you are, I don't know.
No.
Whatever your name is.
Yeah, you over there, the cutie pie in the fox outfit. Ugh.
Yeah, I wish there was more stars, and I wish there was more talks about like the Weaver and the Starseeker that both had like myths ingrained in both of the things that they did. That's me being a mechanic nerd, that I wish that like I was able to like see that side of like what we built. I think also like Neu and Haku had like a backstory being like, we both love the same myth, this is how we bond, and like not being able to touch on that because Haku was doing some weird adventures with Fletcher off who knows where.
Playing like hot potato with a single brain cell off to the side.
And then we lost the brain cell. Calyx really helped. Calyx helped with the brain cell.
Calyx was like, hey, maybe we don't do that.
Tati, do you have anything to add?
The only thing that comes to mind is, and obviously, like, I think all of the things that we're saying just comes down to us needing to have, like, a bajillion more sessions. But I kind of wish Alma had gotten to have a final scene where she, goes to see the ghost that disappeared at the beginning of the season.
I literally just went, I wish we saw
I wish we saw
again.
that.
Yeah.
I wish we saw that kid again. It just came to mind. And I was like, oh.
I'm gonna cry.
That hurt. That one hurt.
That was such a major thing that happened, like, immediately off the bat. So it's kind of sad that we didn't get to, like, see what, like, all of it was really for. Like, Alma's, like, kind of reason for caring about the thing.
Haku had a meeting with their destiny at the end of this season. So you being the next Starkeeper, how do you feel like that is gonna go, I guess?
I don't know. I think he's gonna grow into it because they are so all over the place. I was also all over the place in that session because I was so sick. I think I was like fighting off of a cold at that point, and I was like, did that really happen? Anyways, but I think, because again, like that last letter that I wrote was from like future Haku to like future like Star Seekers. So I think he's gonna grow into it. I think it's gonna be like a decade of them running around and not knowing what they're doing and going, okay, let's take a breath. Let's have a beach episode and in the stars and see what happens. Maybe I can communicate with like other little gods as mentors, because it's a lot of self-teaching. Will he start a cult? Honestly, it might accidentally happen, and then they're like, oh no, help, to friends, because they saw what it was like to like a cult happening, and I think that's what's gonna happen. That's my, as long as he keeps his friends, I think he's good. And he's traveling with friends, so that helps him significantly.
Except you're not traveling with Fletcher.
I know, that one hurts me.
Why did you have to say it? It's just mean.
Because I need to ask the question.
We could go on just living in blissful ignorance, you know.
We can kidnap Fletcher. It's not that hard to kidnap Fletcher.
They're very
Well,
tiny.
it's not hard.
Like,
Well,
put
we
it in
have to
your
get
pocket.
past Calyx. We have to get past
Ugh.
Calyx and Lauren.
That's
Lauren's
what you're
actually
all
kind of
willingly.
creepy.
Laura needs therapy.
Well,
Yeah.
in this time away from the rest of the letter writing club, how do you think that the relationship dynamic, and I guess this is both for Michi and Harper, between Fletcher, Calyx, and Lauren kind of evolves in this little bit of time?
Fletcher is now like leading a traveling witch academy, I believe. So Fletcher's still traveling, at least. Maybe purposefully following a specific flight route. I think like when the lead up or around when like the little like thruple polycule was being solidified, I think I had predicted that like it's probably not gonna last super long with Calyx, but it'll be like a very like fulfilling relationship that like remains like very positive afterwards. And then With Lauren, I don't know why. I think it's just like a fun toxic end game.
I can fix him. I
I
can
don't
fix
know.
him.
I think like it's given like their history and like the fact that they're like in the same field. I think like lifestyle wise, it just makes sense for like Fletcher to have a bit of a life partner with Lauren. But I think Calix is like very important. This is me being super realistic right now.
Realistic, talking about our little animal friends.
Exactly.
I was firmly Team Calix.
I know.
Personally.
But it does kind of
so
make
great.
sense, especially if Calix is like Portsmore is like their home. Obviously, Harper, you can talk more about this from Calix's perspective, but what you just mentioned about Lauren and Fletcher being in like the same field and having like the same lifestyle, I can see like how that would lend itself to longevity from that too.
Yeah, I kind of felt, especially as wrapping up with Calix and Fletcher, that they would probably be in a relationship, but probably like more like long distance. But anytime they're in the same place, then like just like that relationship is there, you know? Like I feel like Calix is meant to be kind of like a home, you know, like someone to come back to.
He's a port that they can return to.
Because I really feel like Calix does not like the traveling, and as much as he loves Fletcher, like that's just not his or their life, you know.
What about Calix and Lauren? I do want to hear just like two seconds about their dynamic and how that goes, because it seems like they were very chill with each other, but just curious to see.
Yeah, I feel like they would never like date, but like definitely got, I feel like would get to a better place of like being supportive, but then also I think Calix would sort of be very protective of Fletcher and like get on to Lauren for X, Y, and Z that his crazy ass does. So
It also always felt, not that Calix was necessarily like a lot older, but was a lot more mature.
yeah.
He's the dad.
He's that. Calix is thatty.
Daddy.
I'm seeing kind of like Fletcher in the traveling academy every now and again going to see Alex. And if you have any other kind of like flying if giving them to Alex for to throw experiences as part of development, part of the curriculum.
I feel like Calix doesn't throw anymore.
Oh.
Oh.
I heard
Yeah.
only
What's their
one.
thing?
Why would you say that?
Mouth
She's
full of
gotta hurt
waffles.
us more.
Tatiana crying with waffles.
I feel like Calix eventually like settled, maybe like bought like a sort of like antique oddities shop in Portsmore and just kind of lives a pretty like low key, non-throwing life.
I support. I enjoy that Fletcher is the glory days of throwing.
Okta, how do you think it changes or evolves your dynamic with Alma now that you guys are kind of traveling full time together?
Since the beginning, they both had a bit of a kind of like good. We get each other. Things need to be done. And now we'll be very careful to continue to kind of like push Alma to let go. So I think especially on the first month of traveling together, they may get there may be a bit of conflict there. So like, no, not worry about this, or let this thing that isn't perfect go. And I think that could be a cause for a little bit of conflict. But after that, I think they could get to a very comfy place where Neo even learns a little bit more about the ship, and 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 they can support each other in a more tacit way.
Interesting, because I feel like when we were doing the initial character creation, I think Alma and Neo were very close when they were younger. Like I distinctly remember Alma comforting Neo about like a significant loss in their life. And that being like a huge building block of their relationship. And I don't know if we kind of got to incorporate that as much as maybe what we could have or we should have or whatever. But I think they, like the two of them traveling together and, you know, Haku traveling together, I think that's kind of how it was meant to be a little bit. I think none of them were like particularly content in the lastings, like long term. I think Haku needed to leave the lastings to find the Star Keeper, to achieve, you know, their destiny and get a better sense of the stars and the world and how other places, you know, interact with the stars. And I think Neo was in kind of a toxic relationship in the lasting. And sometimes you need like a big change to break out of old habits. And I think, you know, as we were traveling, Neo got to do so much more of the things that they were passionate about, like the big weaving projects. Like I don't know if they would have ever been able to do that sort of thing if they had stayed in the lastings long term. And they just can't. I hold Neo so fondly in my hands, like doing the weaving so that Alma could see the thoughts mores. That, like, it didn't hurt me, but it like touched me so deep in my soul emotionally. I'm very soft about that still.
I would love to hear more about, just obviously at the very beginning Neo was not confident in like doing like their weavings and stuff and really like diving into their passions. Like I want to know how far Neo goes now that he has like the freedom to like get different materials from different places that they travel, and like what other sort of big projects do they take on? Like what are some things that really inspire them now that they're traveling around and seeing more things?
I think the next big project after that, it's for sure um, something a bit smaller in a way. So it's a bigger project, but also smaller. Yeah, I think the next piece will be a lot more about the daily small lives of kids in different places, and it will go with like trying to go like the story of a date that Neo saw someone else having, or the story of someone going for groceries in Middlewell after the the harvest picks up again, like showing people how tall the towers in Towerfell were and all of that stuff. Just kind of like showing these little pieces, these little laws from place to place as they travel. And like, hey, you should also travel. Places look cool.
That's so fucking cute. I love that.
Well, I guess this kind of is jumping back to a broader group question. Food was like a continual thing that was brought up throughout the season. It was kind of like a connecting factor, which, you know, I think it is in real life as well. Do you guys have any favorite like foods that popped up throughout
Acorn
this.
soup.
Had a feeling that the soup was going to be a big. The soup was going to be
I need to
big.
try that soup.
Fletcher's birthday cake.
I do like the tea shop that we went to. That was just, I loved that so, like, if that was real. It probably is, but if it, I would go there immediately, and it would be, I wouldn't do what Fletcher did, but like,
That was aggressive.
it was so funny. Well, I like lots of things. It was just like watching, I was like, I would possibly do it. I'm that at a froyo place constantly. All the toppings. But yeah, I think that was a big one because I'm a tea person, so that sparked joy.
One thing that really stuck out to me that I really liked was that we didn't really have like a tavern moment, and like liquor wasn't really a thing.
Dreamberry.
That's the only
Yeah.
time it happened, I think, was the Dreamberry.
Oh yes, the
At the
Dreamberries.
very beginning.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Was it even liquor?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of queer culture does kind of surround like substances, and often like the unhealthy use of substances. So I guess it would have been nice to show like the healthy use of substances, but I don't know, it did feel nice to just like have something that wasn't like focused on that, because you tend to like meet in a tavern and go to the tavern and get your jobs from the tavern, and yeah, I don't know, I feel like just like not enough queer culture acknowledges sobriety, and I don't know, that's not necessarily your question, but like there was something that happened, so
I mean, I think it also kind of leads into like, or mirrors what we were talking about earlier about Neu and like leaving the lastings. And once out of, that environment that they were in, they never spoke about Dreamberries again. Like it was once removed from the initial factor and the cause, was able to not worry about that anymore.
All the more evidence that everybody needs to leave their hometown at least once.
That's very true. I did that and I became gay.
Yes, that's
I
what
came
happened.
out right immediately after.
It is genuinely very interesting. Because like Alma, I have traveled a lot, and it's always very interesting interacting with people who have never left like our state or like the country. And I completely recognized that like travel is not a necessarily accessible thing, but I feel like there's a huge difference between people who can't travel and people who do not travel.
Yeah.
For like one reason or another. And usually the reason is suspect at best.
I think it's because people understand that if they travel, they will be forced to put themselves in a different environment and have to look at things from a different point of view. And if they are very solid in what they already believe, they don't want anything to threaten that.
Yes.
And they know subconsciously, like, if I do this, then I might have to do some internal work to figure out some things, and I don't want to do that because it's scary, which is understandable. But, like, at a point, you're just like, if you have the means to and you still refuse to out of fear of either yourself or the world, maybe take a look at why. Maybe
It's all about intentions.
It's
Yeah,
all about
exactly.
intentions. And even people who do travel, some people who do travel are very intentional with the places that they will and will not go. And I feel like that is so limiting in like giving yourself kind of an actual worldly experience where, you do get to interact with new people and new cultures and expose yourself to the people that live on this planet that we all live on.
Though I will say, right now, everybody stay out of France.
Don't go to France.
Don't go to
Right
France.
now,
what's happening in
the
France?
bed bugs.
Bed
The
bugs.
bed bugs. There
There
is
is an
bed bug
infestation.
epidemic.
In France.
Oh no.
Which is bad, because they have the Olympics coming up next
Yep.
year.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, but then they're gonna go everywhere else after that.
Well,
Yes.
the issue too is people are traveling and like having them and taking them to other places.
I just want a fucking break.
Just like one more like just quick anecdote around like how travel can help people. So like my mom, the first time that she traveled out of the country and like went and visited my aunt over in Belgium and everything, she came back and it was like there was like a weird switch that had flipped, and suddenly she was like someone that I could come out to. And like, so I think travel not just only opens up to things for you, but for the people around you to feel like more comfortable and things like. It's just, I think travel's cool, and I'm really glad Naya was able to like, you know, expand their horizons and things.
PSA to all of you, if you can, take a trip.
And if you can't, find a rich person and befriend them, and
I
do what
think
you gotta.
that's also plausible. You know, or marry for money.
Marriage, it was originally, you know, a transaction. Why not bring it back to our roots? It's not Adam and Eve.
Just a
it's
better
money and me.
transaction.
Money
I'm not
and
saying I would have a sizable dowry.
The
but-
person in the relationship is not the transaction.
Yes. Exactly.
Let's be clear.
Let's be
be
clear on
clear.
what we are still being bad people by talking about it this way, but we're not
Yeah.
that bad of people.
Yeah. We're like the fun kind of bad people.
But even just like make friends with people who are not from where you are. Like we have never lived in a more accessible time to meet people that are not from where you live. Like all of us here, well, most of us here are in different states at the very least, different countries at the very worst.
Everyone's a different fucking time zone.
We all like do different things. We all have different backgrounds that, you know, inform our experiences. Make friends like that. Don't just stick with, you know, your same old like Wonder Bread vanilla childhood.
Yeah, exactly. Don't stick with vanilla. That's what we're saying.
Be like Lauren, who likes being tied up.
Spicy.
God
It's spicy.
damn it.
Tie me up, just do it.
I don't think this is about travel anymore.
I was gonna drop a quick anecdote about travel. But yeah, like I didn't start coming out until I moved out of the state that I grew up in. And I didn't realize I was trans until moving like 25 hours away from like family and friends. Like sometimes we need distance, sometimes we need space, sometimes we need to be in new places. And I think this season really showed a lot of that, how change can happen in multiple ways, in multiple contexts, but most of the time it happens when you push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Well, I want to throw it out to you guys if you have any burning questions for each other.
Maybe I forgot, but what happened with Chandler and the crush on Haku? Also, I'm sorry, there's a cat in a diaper right next to me. So...
Did he put the diaper on himself? Is he supposed to be wearing a diaper?
Well, is the cat supposed to be there? Like that's
Is this your cat? Is this a cat that lives
This
here, or did
your
it just
cat.
pop up?
There's a cat that lives with me. She's
Okay.
supposed to be wearing the diaper. She was let out for the morning this morning during this call. And now she's walking around with her diaper, and I keep getting distracted.
okay. Well,
What was the question?
yeah, Chandler,
Chandler.
the Chandler
and Haku?
crush.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Ow!
I think we handled that in an after show once. It was close to the end. We talked about that was the plan to do like the friends to lovers thing, but ended up feeling like it just wasn't gonna be that. Like it just didn't feel right, you know?
Yeah, because it started out as enemies. Because I really wanted enemies to lovers. Because I got a text from Harper saying, I think it was Haku's boring. We got to get some drama in here, or something like that. And I went, okay, you said drama, do enemies to lovers, and then Chandler ended up on board, and I went, okay, I didn't know it was gonna be like that, but okay. So I don't think it's gonna be like a relationship, but I think it's gonna be like enemies to like best, like this is the person that Haku would turn to for like star charts and like understanding the stars, and it's someone that like understands it, but is also outside of it now that he's not pursuing like the. I was also gonna say the same thing.
It's so
So-
big.
Yeah. And what was the size of your head, Mishi? The fuck?
Nope. Yeah.
We've had
Nope.
to-
No. Now you
Disappeared
You're gone.
completely.
Now you're gone.
Okay. Sorry, Janine. Please continue.
But yeah, so I think that's what that relationship is now between the two of them that I like. Is there a question?
Oh no, I just wanted to speak after you, like, because
Okay.
I have something to add to that.
Raises a paw.
I
Yeah,
didn't realize you could do that. That's
yeah.
good.
Janine, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I think with that, like, probably like really good colleagues, and maybe I could see Chandler being leaned on for like art, and like maybe like a long-term collaborator with Haku as like the Starkeeper, but like maybe like the Starkeeper's artist, you know, like that helps the Starkeeper with the portrayals of different things.
Because I think where Haku started going, which is also like a journey that I am personally going through, which is like relationships are weird and like feelings are weird, and like you just keep going with like working and working and working and like having joy and like love in like that personal self rather than like focusing on everyone else. So that's like the parallel that I'm seeing between both of them, where it's kind of like, do we need a relationship at this point where it's like we have such a good trajectory, and if someone does come along, they can come along, but I will try to make space, but it's not like I'll do the first move and then that's it. If there's nothing after that, then I threw the ball in the court, I don't have time for this, but I can make time if you're okay with that. That's where like I'm seeing both of those like things happening with Haku, especially now that they're this. I don't have time for that. If it's needed, then it happens. But like, they got so many little guys, Star Seekers, that want to like also know more. So like, those are the kids that I think like Haku will like put the time and effort into.
This is kind of in the same vein. And it's just like a personal curiosity of mine, just based on my experience with TTRPGs in the past. I thought it was very interesting how all of the kind of romance arcs were between PCs and NPCs, and none of the PCs romanced each other. I think that was pretty kind of a unique choice. That I don't know. I don't think any of us did intentionally.
It felt like you guys were like too much of old friends.
Yeah.
Like it existed in like it just seemed so overwhelmingly purely platonic. Like
Yes.
yeah.
It was very like familial, almost.
A
But
little
I just
found
thought that was
family.
kind of an interesting, like, oh, yeah. Especially considering how much Janine and Mishi flirt all the time.
Okay, just call them out like that on May.
Yeah.
Like what the hell?
I don't know what you're talking about. Don't worry about it.
I literally don't know what you're talking about. What? Who is Janine?
Who's Mishi?
Well, I also think I don't know if this is how any of you feel personally, but I've found recently, and being in games and running games, that it's like a comfortability level. People are a lot more comfortable flirting and romancing the person running the game than they are the people they're playing with, because I think there's like a factor, like there is a little bit, like we all want to say that we're like all a group and we're all, but there's a little bit of like a wall between the players and a person running a game, and I think there's sometimes more comfortability in that than there is with the person right next to you type of situation.
Yeah, with the player characters, you still are kind of like flirting with that person, whereas I do feel like there is more of like, well, the GM or the guide or the DM, like they're like every NPC, so they're not as like attached to that character.
It is funny that Yeah, Janine and I flirt in real life, whatever.
You're turning beet red. It's supposed to
You called yourself out that time, so
Yeah.
It's because Janine's coming to New York, like, literally this week. Anyway, but it is funny because, like, Fletcher and Haku, like, never in a million years, like, they chose not to sleep in the same bed because they would have, like, kicked each other in the face.
yes.
Yeah.
And, like, even though they were this, like, buddy duo of being really bad at everything they do together, like, it just never seemed like they would end up together. Because, like, I don't have a problem flirting with Janine. What are you talking about?
Oh, what are you talking about? Flirting
so
in this
small.
economy?
Should we leave? I'm like,
This is why we let.
Yeah, should we
Janine-
go?
yeah, like, do you guys need
No,
to
we
vote
can
now?
go.
Oh, is this
So
why
we can
we?
all flirt with
Is this
Janine.
is this why we give keys to Janine?
This is why we give.
Yes.
This is actually the agenda behind
Yeah.
giving keys to Janine, just so we can flirt with the variety.
Listen,
NPCs.
the Monster Hearts one shot that none of the rest of chat saw was immense and great.
It was great. We all just got to flirt with different fonts of Janine.
I will say, along those lines, like, whenever I am, like, GMing, I've only ever had one, like, game, like a group of people where, like, the PCs flirted with each other instead of with me. And for some reason, it's, like, the two quote-unquote straight dudes in my group. And I'm just waiting, you know? So I'll keep you guys updated on that.
I share that experience. Like on my main group that we play, we've been playing for 7 years. Specifically, the ones who flirt are the two straight guys.
Do they think it's because it's, like, safe? You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
think
probably.
so.
Like,
It's
I can't catch
probably-
feelings with my bro because we're both straight, huh? Unless.
But also, what if our characters hold hands?
TTRPGs are always a venue for like self-exploration. So it literally could be like, you know, while we make fun of it, it actually is like a real thing where if somebody is too afraid to do something in their real life, this gives them the you know, something to hide behind in order to explore something they don't want to say out loud. So while we are giving them a little shit, it's also a perfectly normal and acceptable thing to do.
I mean, I've definitely had the experience, and I pray that none of you have had this experience where, like, I was playing with a group, and my character and another player's character had, like, good chemistry, and they started romancing each other. And then the player kind of
Oh, no.
That's not how
kind
you
of
do it.
developed
Boundaries, everyone.
feelings.
Todd,
It was bad. It was
It's called
really
showmances. It's
It
called a
was-
showmance.
It was so bad to the
Seshmance.
point where I had to be like, okay, our characters cannot be romancing each other anymore because of your feelings
Yeah.
for me. So
Damn.
I maybe we give them a little shit.
We give them a little shit.
TTRPGs
And
are great to explore a variety of things, but maybe
Yeah,
you
there are
shouldn't
still
explore
boundaries.
everything.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are still boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
like TTRPGs are how I found out that I was not cis. You know what I mean? Like I, as like a jokey
Same.
joke, I was like, I'm gonna play a character that uses they them pronouns,
Same.
and then I was like, wait a second. I think I've said this like a million times, but
Yeah.
every time I think about it, I'm like, yeah, thanks, Army the Immortal. Appreciate it, dude. Ugh.
Wait, that was that? That was
That was that. No, that
oh
was
my god, that was
so
the first D&D game I ever played in with Ashley.
yeah. And like I was like, it lasted for like years. We still technically have like a session or two left. I don't know
We
when it's gonna
technically
happen.
do, but it's never gonna happen.
But like, yeah, Army, because I was just like, oh, I'm gonna like play as like a non-binary chaos gnome. Let's
I
see how
literally
this goes.
think that at that time I just figured that you used the
I didn't know when we started. I didn't fucking know, dude.
That's
It took like
I love
months,
it.
and then I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
wow.
Wait a second.
That's so funny. I never knew that.
Same for me, honestly. I think there's a fine line between exploring and like cultural appropriation, kind of like exploiting an othered identity, which I think can be problematic. But it just, I mean, I think it's anything where it could be done a wrong way. You know, like, I've seen it done a wrong way before, and I've had to like call it out and be like, no, we're not gonna you're not gonna be a flamboyant gay because you're not a flamboyant gay. It's a challenge for sure.
I've never seen somebody play a lesbian better than Brennan Lee Mulligan in Fantasy High.
Okay, Brennan Lee Mulligan is an outlier and should not be
He's allowed to do whatever he wants.
Well, I think that's an example of how it can be done, like, tastefully and
yes.
respectfully.
Yes.
but-
'Cause it's about intention, and also, like, if you're given feedback by the people in that community, listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
intention and willingness to, like, adjust your approach if
It's
need
also
be,
like
I
if
think is what it is.
these things happen at a table, like at your home game, then it kind of is up to you as the person running the game, or even if you're a player at that table that just notices something, to bring it up. Because, like, I had a conversation with somebody I played with once where they wanted to use different pronouns than what they went by, and I had to be like, I need you to give me why. Like, why do you want to do this? And the response was, because I would like to explore what my relationship to gender. And I was like, great. But because you have never done that before, all of these things that you have written in this backstory, we're not doing it. This is like, you are perpetuating like the trauma of this rather than actually exploring that for yourself. Like, some people also just don't know that they're doing the thing.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
being able to like say that to somebody is necessary to create like the actual exploration side of things. Yeah. Well, I got one question to kind of sign us out here. We've talked a little bit about it throughout this wrap up, and it's vague, so you can take it however you want. If you want to take it as like characters or as people or as a group. But what do you feel was the biggest takeaway from the experience of playing Of Kith and Pen together and filming season 2 for us?
Yes, it was a really short season, and I think the thing that like I missed but we also got to see was just enjoying the journey and like taking those, like, we didn't do it until like the end, and like taking those moments of rest and like seeing like the outside world and like describing the world. That was something that was really cool to have in this game, because it is a big mechanic of Wanderhome, and you don't get to see that a lot in like D&D or like some Powered by the Apocalypse games. This is intentionally looking at the environment, and like that was like really heartwarming, because also we got to see moments between like characters that made me cry in like the good happy feeling ways and not like ouch it hurts. And also implementing the letters, that was really therapeutic, being able to like write those letters in character, and also having like a revamp, and also hearing everyone else's thoughts, because you don't get to hear the thoughts as much in character, you get to hear it outside of character.
All of that, yeah, and more. I also think it was cool to just, queerness just is in this world. Queerness is just it just is. It's a thing that is just allowed to be. Like, we went through a lot. We had a lot of problems. We did so much. But, like, none of it had to do with our characters' like gender identities or sexualities or the way that we chose to love each other. Those things just were. And I think that was really beautiful and kind of not something that we get to see very much in queer media. A lot of queer media, just kind of by virtue of being set in like modern times or like on a pirate ship, you're going to encounter.
That was so specific.
Everybody knows what it is.
What could you
And
be
we
talking
all
about?
knew it.
I think we know what you're
You
talking
encounter-
about.
You're going to encounter stuff, and that's fine, and that's, kind of something that you expect as like a queer person watching any sort of queer media, is like, yeah, there's gonna be at least one scene where this character has like a breakdown about liking the same sex, and that's fine. But we didn't have that, and I liked that. I think queerness is no less the default than a heteronormative society. It doesn't always need to be like the focal point of the story, but at the same time it was a focal point of our story, but it wasn't the trauma of it.
Focal point in the sense that like we were just telling a queer story, but like
Yes.
the story wasn't about being queer.
Yes.
And it
And
wasn't
I
based
think
off of
that
queer
is-
trauma.
That is
Yes.
kind of like what Ashley and I, starting this, wanted to be able to do, was to tell a plethora of queer stories, because there are so many that exist out there that people just like don't get to see, because it's all about love or romance or sex type of thing a lot of the times, or the trauma of everything, instead of just like some queer people drinking some tea, like.
I was gonna say something really similar, but like, Tot, you got it. Of just like, yeah, it was so easy to be queer. And I think like with playing Wander Home specifically, I think because it's so like focused on the journey and we're just being these characters, I think it like helped me explore like what it means to like just be in the character and like explore these relationships with the other characters a lot, because I think like oh my god, where's my voice going? Goodbye voice. The characters, like the building of relationships we did was so powerful to me, like, and we did have like a lot of prep sessions, but like once we actually started playing together and like exploring those dynamics, it was just so fun in ways that like I don't think I've experienced with other TTRPGs where there's like a goal and you have to like do this or that, but because the stakes of like achieving the goals in Wander Home felt so not necessarily like lower, but it felt more relaxed in a way that like we could spend some time just getting not self-serve tea, but like froyo tea essentially, or like we could spend extra time like doing all these silly things, making soup. And so I think that was just really nice because I think the bonding was a lot stronger for this experience. And I love you all. I'm so soft for you all.
I think just from like on the production side, seeing not just the difference between like season 1, season 2, and now a little bit of how season 3 is going to shake out. Very excited. But just kind of what you mentioned, Kenzie, just like the different kinds of stories, how there are so many different queer stories that can be told, and how like there's just like such an untapped vein of queer, not just like queer, but like queer centered stories, like ones where it's like it's made and done by people who understand not just the struggles but also the joys, and so being able to highlight the joys that we experience and like showing like like all like the different ranges of emotions that come along with being part of this community, because it is a community. And I think every time like we make a show like this, there's like another little mini pocket in that community that gets made, like with like the cast and the listeners and everything, and it's just very, very heartwarming to see how this is affecting like people, and like people are enjoying the stories. It just makes my heart happy. I think that was my main takeaway. I like it. Very good.
I think for me, the main takeaway of not only, I think a big takeaway for me is the actually I can do whatever I want to do, just a big little gay. This is the first kind of like big creative thing I do. Especially anything recorded at all. I had the first sessions I recorded with my phone like a loser.
Hey, no,
It's
I
like-
asked you to do that. That's not on you.
Yeah.
I asked you.
I think I touched upon it in some after show, but like Mishi, when I was like, I don't know how to speak into a microphone. Can you help me find the voice? And you had like a good bunch of one of your afternoons just like walking me through. pitch, this is clarity, this is resonance, this is how you go from one to the other. And I was like, this is the, and then as the sessions went on, I was listening, oh, these are the levels in your microphone. This is how you use audacity. And it was just like queer people teaching other queer people how to be successful in things that they want to do.
We can't keep gatekeeping the space, you know?
Yeah.
And that was so beautiful.
For me, this season has been a lot. When we started this process, like even when I tried to like audition for my role as like guide, like I wasn't out. I was only out to like my partner and a couple folks, and I was living a very like unhappy, very unfulfilled life. And honestly, this season, working with you all, and it just, number one, just like filled me with confidence to be myself and to stop living a very small kind of life that other people wanted for me. And so yeah, like through this process, like I truly became myself in a lot of ways. And yeah, I started like HRT while through this, and probably wouldn't have started HRT. Yeah, this show has like really been life-changing for me in a lot of ways. And yeah, I don't know what's next for me because of this, but like it's just as like really shaped me in a lot of ways, like just seeing you all and like getting to know your characters and just seeing like the character growth in your characters, and honestly being able to like latch onto Calix myself and have a lot of like Calix's story be my story, which was really cool. But yeah, I just love you all. I love this group, this podcast, the people we get to tell stories to and with. And yeah, I'm excited for whatever's next for all of us. So
No, I remember when you put when you were first like, hey, how does Harper Sage sound? And we're all like, yes. Like I remember that moment in the group chat, and I'm just sobbing. It's fine, okay.
Yeah, because I picked my new name like around the time we started recording. I did have to go back and redo my my intro, because I did record it under my, I guess I was using I don't know what name I was using then for the podcast, but it wasn't what I was using, what I'm using now. But yeah, this podcast has been awesome.
Well, I want to just thank you all for coming on this journey with us as Queer PG. And it's been wonderful getting to know and to meet all of you throughout these last many months. And for everybody who is listening, thank you guys so much for being our fans and our audience. We hope that you enjoyed our Wander Home journey in Of Kith and Pen. And until next time, everyone.
Don't forget to ride.
Don't forget to ride. We did it.
I'm glad it
Love you.
ended just as badly as it has always been.
Yay! Consistency.
We are nothing if not consistent.